I got to take this call. Very important call. Jordan, we're switching the bet.
Huh?
We're definitely switching our bet.
Oh what? What you mean?
No.
Don't stay with Canelo.
We're going Crawford.
If he's saying that, everybody goes slam Crawford.
Jordan, we're going Crawford. I'm telling you right now, we're going Crawford.
Wait,
Cash out. I'll tell you guys off stream. We're good. Just go Crawford. You really want Crawford?
Text me, bro.
I will. All I'm going to say, chat, I got one of those calls, okay? And they were just like, listen, we think that if you were to do this, it's going to get bad. If you do this, it's going to get bad. It's not rigged.
Okay, so that's a video of very popular streamer Adinross an hour before the Canelo Crawford fight, switching his bet from Canelo to Crawford because Canelo was the betting favorite all week. Like all week. I think he was minus 250 going into that. I think that's what the number that I got him at. I think I got him at like minus 250 going into the fight. And it got closer as the fight got closer, especially at weigh-ins, because Crawford was about the same size as Canelo at the final face-offs. They were the same size. And like leading up to it, people were saying that like Canelo might weigh in at like over 200 pounds on actual fight night, not at the weigh-ins, obviously. Weigh-ins, it was what, 167.5. They both weighed in at 167.5. But on actual fight night, people were saying that Canelo might balloon up to 200 pounds. But like at the final weigh-ins, they looked about the same size. You could argue that Crawford looked just a little bit bigger, honestly. They were very close to being the same size as one another. So I think the number got closer. It got to maybe to like 150 minus 150 plus like 125 at the final face-offs. And then an hour before the fight, super popular streamer Adinross, who's connected with Dana White and you know who's the main promoter running this fight, takes a very important phone call that he doesn't want to talk about on stream, and he changes his bet to Crawford. It's weird. Again, it's making the rounds. I've seen it like 5 or 6 times at this point. I think the fight was rigged. It was a fixed fight, like, which isn't crazy, right? It's not crazy that this was a fixed fight. Because boxing has a long history of fixed fights. So this isn't like the first fixed fight in boxing. It's not like crazy to assume that boxing had a fixed fight. Even in MMA, you don't get fixed fights, but like James Krause got in trouble like not that long ago for making bets because he was in the locker room, so he could see when fighters were sick or if they were injured. He could see how fighters were looking in the locker room, and he would like talk to his Discord and make bets to his Discord followers in order to bet on the right fighter for that night. So boxing and combat sports, they have a history of rigging fights and kind of being like shady in order to get the right bets on this fight, right? So like I'm gonna talk about like why people are starting to think that this fight was fixed. Because there's not like a ton of evidence there, but there is some like questionable stuff, right? A lot of people kind of mentioned, like I mentioned the Adinross thing, but like there was other stuff like leading into the fights. Like there was a second where Turki Al-Sheikh, who's the guy who's like running all this, the multi-billionaire, he's like the owner of Riyadh Season. The reason he's doing all this is, one, because he's a fan of boxing, but two, because he's trying to promote Saudi Arabia, right? The WrestleMania is just announced that they're going to Saudi Arabia next year, right? And fans aren't happy about that. They just have so much money in Saudi Arabia that they're able to kind of like promote all of these combat sports because they don't have their own combat sports league in the Middle East and Saudi Arabia. So they're kind of taking any combat sports that they can get and kind of trying to rebrand it as Saudi Arabia. And somebody like Dana White is going to take any paycheck he can get, right? He's notoriously like a greedy old guy. So he's going to take any paycheck he can get. So if a billionaire is offering him money, he's going to take it, obviously. Now, I'm not saying Dana was like, involved with this in any way. But there was like a picture out there with Turki Al-Sheikh like grabbing Terence Crawford's hand like before the fight, like he kind of like seemed like the whole like the week leading up to the fight that he was leaning a little bit more towards Crawford. Like in certain pictures, he's standing closer to Crawford than Canelo. He seems like the whole week he's leading up to Crawford, right? And if anybody was involved in fixing this fight, he would know about it. I'm not saying Dana would, because Dana's always been like very aggressively, against fight betting and stuff like that. That's fucking illegal, right? So that's the old, the Kimbo Slice thing, right? Dana's always been very against sports betting. He could lose his promoter's license. So I don't think Dana was involved with this. I don't know who specifically was involved with this. But like another thing that people are noting is a reason why this fight might be fixed is because for the first 4 rounds of this super boring fucking fight, because the fight was boring as shit, by the way. I fell asleep while watching it. I had to go back and like rewatch it because I fell asleep while it was live. It was so goddamn boring. The first 4 rounds, Canelo essentially took him off. Like he wasn't fighting. He was throwing some body shots, but he was like turtling up for a lot of the fight. So some people are saying maybe Canelo was sick. You know, some people are saying Canelo was injured, or maybe Canelo got paid off, right? Because Canelo reportedly, right, there's not like sure numbers out there. People have asked, but we can't find specific numbers. Canelo apparently got somewhere close to $100 million to $150 million for this 4-fight deal. That's what he has with Riyadh. He has a 4-fight deal with Riyadh. He already had 1 fight with Riyadh, which was a tune-up fight back in Saudi Arabia again. And this was the 2nd fight. So he has 2 more fights on his deal with Riyadh, right? And I think that's what this is all leading up to. Like I'm burying the lead a little bit. I think this is leading up to a trilogy of fights, right? This isn't just 1 fight. This is setting up to be a trilogy, right? That's part of the reason why I think Canelo took the first 4 rounds off. Nobody got knocked out in this fight. Nobody even got knocked down in this fight, right? It was an extremely close fight. Like the betting card, the judging scorecards were clearly in favor of Terence Crawford, but in terms of like the actual fight, watching it, it's like a close fight. There's no one had a dominant win. There wasn't like, again, there wasn't like a knockdown. Like if you look back at like the Francis Ngannou Tyson Fury fight, right? Ngannou got a clear knockdown in the fight and he still lost the fight, right? This fight, there was no clear knockdown. There was obviously no knockout, right? It went to decision, which makes it easier to sell a rematch, right? That's an easier way you can sell a rematch. Oh, it was a super close fight. Of course we have to do a rematch, right? Because for both of these guys, a rematch is going to get them the most money possible, right? Because I don't think Crawford had a deal. I don't think he had a deal with these guys. He got paid $10 million guaranteed for his fight with Riyadh. He obviously is going to get more money with the actual pay-per-view numbers that are going to come out. But behind that also, there aren't a ton of other guys for them to fight at these weight classes, right? There's Chris Eubanks Jr., who has been calling out Canelo. Canelo's, his manager, Eddie Reynoso, has talked about that they've had complicated negotiations with the Eubanks fight. And that he said that Canelo doesn't want the fight. They're not interested in the Eubanks fight, right? And the other guy who I think they're building, right? I think Dana White specifically is building Callum Walsh, right? Dana White clearly likes Callum Walsh. He sees him as a new Conor McGregor. But Riyadh, they are building Hamza Shiraz. I don't know Hamza Shiraz. I'm not like that hardcore of a boxing fan. I'm not paying attention to Hamza Shiraz, but he is a super middleweight and recently knocked out Edgar Berlanga. He's promoted by Frank Warren, and again has Saudi backers, much like Canelo does, right? Again, Riyadh season, right? And this is a Riyadh hometown guy, right? So they're going to promote this guy over Canelo and Crawford, right? So what people are thinking is that we're going to have a rematch, which will be announced probably for 2026. It will be a huge build-up for that fight, right? And it'll be much closer, right, in terms of the fight, right? You give Canelo a chance to get his titles back, right? Shout out to Crawford. The first male 3-weight undisputed champion. And people are already calling him the GOAT. People are already saying he's the best boxer of all time, right? All of that is marketing. All of that is marketing to sell the next fight, right? Because we have 2 more fights. We could have 2 more fights next year between Canelo and Crawford, right? Because if Canelo and Crawford fight next like February or March or something like that, that'll be a second fight, and then we'll have a third fight like come October or something like that. So we could easily have 2 fights with Canelo and Crawford next year, and the winner of that fight fights Hamza Shiraz, who again is backed by Saudi Arabia, backed by Turki Al-Sheikh, and then they could give their hometown guy, then they can promote their hometown guy as beating the GOAT, right? Whether the GOAT is Crawford, whether you see the GOAT as Canelo, nobody sees Canelo as a GOAT because he's lost multiple times at this point. lost to Floyd, lost to Crawford now. So he's lost multiple times. So nobody sees Canelo as the GOAT anymore, especially when you have somebody like Crawford who's undefeated. You have somebody like Floyd who's undefeated. Nobody's looking at Canelo as the GOAT, but he still is to face the biggest name in the world of boxing, especially at the lower weight classes, not the higher weight classes. You know, he's not Anthony Joshua, he's not Tyson Fury, right? And those guys are on their way out too, because they've both taken big losses, right? So a lot of the big names in boxing have already taken big losses and are kind of on their way out. People are like hinting at the idea that Canelo Crawford might retire. Both of them might retire. And I think easily they both could, right? But I think that's also marketing, right? They're building it up, right? This might be the last time you ever get to see Canelo fight. This was his last fight, right? Again, I think so much of the narratives that are coming out post this fight are marketing to build up to the next fight. Because if next year, if you look at the numbers on Instagram, like go look at the numbers for Canelo Crawford, like on SportsCenter or whatever, they're doing huge numbers, millions of views per reel. So people were definitely tuned in to this fight. And again, I thought the fight was boring as shit, right? Like most people who I'm seeing online, especially like MMA people, we were watching, was it Lopez versus Silva over in the UFC, which was like one of the best fights of the year. Crazy knockout, super violent. John Silva's bloodied and beaten, backwards spinning elbow. I lost money on that bet too because I put money on John Silva, so I lost 2 bets this weekend. So I might just be salty, so that's why I'm saying this. But that was an amazing fight. I'm not mad at losing that bet because that was an amazing fight. It was a great fight, right? And that was like a title contender fight. These guys are fighting to see who gets to fight Volkanovski for the belt maybe next. That's probably not happening. Lerone Murphy is probably going to fight Volkanovski for the belt next. Not really looking forward to that. It seems like it's going to be a boring unanimous decision for Volkanovski because he's going to out-wrestle Lerone Murphy. So I'm not looking forward to that fight, but I'm getting off track. The idea that they are building this so that we can have 2 fights with Canelo and Crawford next year, and then they can go into fighting the Saudis' hometown guy, Hamza Shiraz. And, if Dana White is promoting it again, people were like memeing Dana White because at the ringside, he looked super bored watching the fights. Like, he looked super bored, right? People were comparing him watching these fights to him on the Contender Series, and he looked super bored watching Canelo Crawford compared to him watching the Contender fights. So everybody is kind of hinting at the idea that all of this, everything that's happening, from the retirement talks to Crawford being called the GOAT talks to contract negotiations, all of this is being done to build a second and a third fight for Canelo and Crawford so that they can make even more money. Because they're the 2 biggest names, especially, again, in the lower weight classes of boxing. They are the 2 biggest names in the world. Crawford is more popular now than he's ever been. I've never paid that much attention to Crawford before this fight, and now I'm paying attention to Crawford. Obviously, people pay attention to Canelo. He's the biggest boxer in the world, but people are paying more attention to both of them now. So if they do a sequel to this, it's going to do big numbers. It's going to do huge numbers, right? The betting line is going to be much closer. Canelo's going to train much more. And then, especially if they do a second version of this fight and Canelo wins, and then you have your trilogy, it seems like a fixed situation. And like I said, there are instances of fixed boxing matches in the history of boxing, right? You had Jake LaMotta. For those of us who are fans of Martin Scorsese and Raging Bull, Jake LaMotta admitted in his autobiography that he took a dive in order to get a title shot later on. He said, and that's him admitting it in his own biography, right? You also had, Ali versus Liston, and this was way back in 1964, where FBI documents suggested that gambler Ash Resnick fixed multiple boxing matches, possibly including the first Ali Liston fight, because of their betting patterns and memos of the fight. There's no fixed proof, and that's the big thing with betting in boxing is like it's hard to prove this unless like the promoter or a judge or the fighters come out themselves and say like, hey, yeah, I took a dive, or hey, yeah, we fixed the fight, and they're not going to admit it because it's like a felony, right? It's like fraud. It's like you go to jail for years. For admitting to taking a dive in like a sports betting situation. This isn't the WWE, right? There's a reason that the WWE isn't on DraftKings, You know what I mean? We know what the outcome is, right? So you can't bet on. Somebody knows what the outcome is, right? Even if there's not a lot of people who know, somebody knows what the outcome is. The script is out there, and when you're putting this much money online, people will find that information, right? So again, that's why it's so like shady that Adinross, an hour before the fight, knows who. An hour before the fight, Adinross knows to switch his bet over, cash out his money, and switch his bet over to Crawford. That's what's so shady about this shit, man. That's what's so shady about this. You know, it's just, oh, and I'm like heated because I lost money on this. I lost money betting on Canelo. So like this was a fixed fight. Like a bunch of us are a bunch of marks who they like took money from so they can put it in their own pockets, right? Because DraftKings was promoting the fight. DraftKings' name was all over the ring ropes. I have money invested in DraftKings on the stock market. DraftKings is doing just fine. DraftKings as a company is doing just fucking fine. They are taking money from marks like me, marks like you maybe, and they're putting this money in high betting, high roller gamblers' pockets, right? Because they have this inside information to know who's going to win and who's going to lose. Now, again, it's possible that Canelo was injured. It's possible that, you know, he was sick or something like that. I've seen like rumors of that going around. But like, if you're asking my personal opinion, I'm starting to think that this was fake because it just makes so much sense, right? Because there's so much money invested in this, right? Again, Turkey Al-Sheikh, right? He has invested so much to get this fight on Netflix, to get Canelo and Crawford to agree to fight each other, to get Crawford come up with 2 weight classes. Again, they've been promoting this fight, so much marketing around this fight. Turkey Al-Sheikh has put out so much money for this fight. He wants to get a return on his investment. And you might get a return for one fight, but you'll definitely get a return if you can have a trilogy of fights, especially if at the end of that trilogy, you can put your own boy in there and make him the new face, the new world champion of boxing, right? If he can beat the GOAT, Crawford, or if he can beat the face of boxing, Canelo, right? It makes too much logical sense to like logically be able to ignore it. It makes too much damn sense to ignore all of the patterns that are here. And I'm not trying to be all conspiracy theory about this, but again, boxing has a long history of fixing fights. This isn't like aliens out there. This isn't Roswell, okay? There is a long history of fixed fights in the world of boxing. So again, it makes logical sense that this is a realistic possibility. And the Adinross video is like really like leaning into it, but it makes logical sense that this is a possibility. What do you think? Do you think this is possible? Do you think maybe Canelo was just hurt? Again, why did he take those first 4 rounds off? People are saying like Canelo's a slow starter. You know, he never starts fights fast. But it's like he took the first 4 rounds off, and then the 5th round was controversial. Let me check actually. Okay, so yeah, the judges for this fight were Wisefield, Sheatham, and DeLuca, right? And they gave a lot of the first few rounds to Canelo, right? So it's a mixed bag up and down the card. It really is a mixed bag. It comes down to 115-13 DeLuca, 115-113 Sheatham, and 116-112 Wisefield, right? But it's a close fight down the card. And even though I said Canelo took the first 4 rounds off, they all have different, like DeLuca said that Canelo won the first round, but the other guys say that Crawford won the first 2 rounds. And then they say Canelo won the next 2 rounds, but then they say that Crawford definitely won the 3rd round. Everybody has Crawford for the 4th round. It's a mixed bag. It's like the judges were all looking at different stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's too much of a mixed bag to be able to see exactly like who was winning which fights. But it seems like Canelo took the first 4 rounds off. Again, like I fell asleep. It was a boring fight. I was bored watching it. But it looked like Canelo took the first four rounds off. Like he was slow. He couldn't get timing on Crawford. He couldn't touch him really. Crawford, you know, they had some body shots, some nice counter shots, but Crawford was able to maintain distance. And it just like, yo, I'm you know, again, I'm not like a conspiracy theory dude, but to me, this seems like it might have been set up. And again, there might not be like documentation of Turki Al-Sheikh saying, "Hey, Canelo, I want you to take the first 4 rounds off, so this fight can be even going into the judges' scorecards, so that it's really close, so that we can set up a rematch for the sequel, right? We can set up because if Canelo won this fight, there is no rematch, right? Canelo wins this fight because he was the betting favorite anyway. So if Canelo won this fight, we're not getting a second fight. So they needed Crawford to win. So you tell Canelo to take the first 4 rounds off, just let Crawford have it. That almost guaranteed, but you can't make it look like a fixed fight, right? You can't make it look like you want Crawford to win. So hey, Canelo, take the first 4 rounds off. Maybe we'll throw in an extra $10 million to your betting purse, and then you pick it up into the 5th round, right? Canelo still has a chance to win. He's not like outwardly just taking a dive. He's just taking, and people already know he's a slow starter. So he's just taking the first few rounds off, giving Crawford those first 4 rounds, give him the chance to win, definitively gave him the 5th round. And then as the fight picked up in the latter rounds, Crawford won a bunch of these too. They all have Crawford winning the 12th round. So by the time everybody has Crawford winning the 12th, everybody has Crawford winning the 11th. So by the time that we're in the later rounds, Crawford was definitively the guy. But yeah, it seems like a fix. It seems like a fixed fight. It really does. Like, it seems like a fixed fight so that we can have a trilogy, so that Turki Al-Sheikh can make all his money back. And again, not straight up fixed, just more like, hey, Canelo, take the first few rounds off so that Crawford has a legitimate chance to win, so that we can set up a trilogy of fights, and then eventually we can give the belt to our boy. That's what it seems like to me. It really does. But let me know what you think. Do you think this was a fixed fight? Did you lose money on this fight? Because I lost money on this fight. So did you lose money? Because I had Callum Walsh, and I got money on Callum Walsh, but lost an overall parlay because of Canelo. So let me know what you think. Did you lose money? If they have a rematch, I might make a separate video for a rematch. I'll just say a lot of the same shit I'm saying right now. If they have a rematch, do you think Canelo can make the adjustments to win that rematch, right? Because again, they would want Canelo to win the second fight, because then that allows them to set up a trilogy, right? And if they have a trilogy, we can see who the they can split the wins, and we can see who the winner is overall, right? So they would want to have a trilogy fight, so they need Canelo to win the next one. So who do you think Canelo can make the adjustments to beat Crawford, or do you think Crawford is just definitively better than Canelo? And do you know, was it Hamza? I thought it was Hamzat Chimaev at first. I was like, who is Hamzat? Hamzat Chimaev isn't a boxer. Do you know Hamzat Shira? Like, are you a fan of him? Like, again, I'm not big on him from like a betting perspective. I don't know this guy that well. Yeah, Hamzat Shiraz. Again, I don't know this guy that well. Are you a big fan of his? Do you think he has a chance of beating Canelo or Crawford? Again, people are saying he's like the next big rising star at super middleweight. He's obviously younger than these guys, and he's a natural super middleweight, so you would assume he would have the size advantage. I don't know. But yeah, are you guys a fan of him? Let me know all that in the comment section below. Like the video, sub, all whatever. Bye.